I used to have a lot of dandruff, and once I started massaging some urine on my scalp just before a shower, my scalp started becoming more moisturized and my dandruff went away.
Welcome to Wellness, your ultimate guide to unlocking your full human potential through biohacking. I'm your host, Ashley Deely. I'm a certified sports nutrition coach with a degree in kinesiology, and I'm a former personal trainer and Pilates instructor. If you're listening on YouTube, hit subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, open the app and give me 5 stars. Or if you're listening anywhere else, a review means so much as it helps listeners just like you find this hidden health information faster. Did you know red wine doesn't actually stain your teeth? It's the artificial dyes they add to the wine. But that's not the case with Dry Farm wines. This is an exclusive wine club which brings you natural, organic wine sourced from farms across Europe who practice regenerative farming. All wines, like this one, are completely sugar-free and fully fermented with less than 1 gram of sugar per liter. Plus, their wines are under 12.5% alcohol, which means you can enjoy your wine without any artificial dyes, preservatives, or sugar. Because you're a loyal listener of Welcome to Wellness, you'll get an extra bottle for just 1 penny on your first order. That's just 1 penny for a beautiful, natural, organic wine. Visit dryfarmwines.com/Ashley Deely. Today's guest is Dr. Pritam Poddar, a multifaceted professional whose work bridges advanced manufacturing and holistic health. As CEO of PRISAM, he pioneers innovations in 3D carbon fiber printing, but his passion extends well beyond engineering. He's a dedicated wellness advocate who focuses on empowering individuals to take charge of their health through awareness, habit transformation, and simple science-backed interventions. His TED Talks, Sitting, The Silent Addiction, and Can Urine Help You?, challenge conventional thinking, highlighting the often overlooked aspects of daily life that impact long-term wellness. He emphasizes a systems thinking approach to health, addressing root cause rather than symptoms, and blending insights from technology, biology, and behavioral science. Whether he's speaking on stage, consulting with teams, or experimenting with his own routines, Dr. Poddar's message is clear. Wellness is proactive, personal, and powerful. Dr. Poddar, welcome to the show.
Yeah, my pleasure to be here, Ashley.
I am so excited to have you here because your TED Talks are quite controversial, or at least not mainstream. So, Dr. Poddar, for listeners hearing about you for the first time, can you please give my listeners an overview of your background?
My background is by training, I'm an engineer. I went to school for 14 years, bachelor's, master's, PhD to get training in engineering, mechanical and industrial engineer. I also spent time doing holistic wellness practices because of many reasons. First of all, I wanted to build a healthy life so that I can contribute more to my family, be there for my coworkers, and put more energy into my business. So that's how I came across a lot of different traditions and studied them and practiced them. And through my TED Talks, I wanted to share a glimpse of what I have learned.
How did you go from engineering to health and wellness?
So, health and wellness is a topic I think every human being on the earth needs to understand. It's not just an engineer, because health is wealth. It's a very cliched saying, but it's also very true. Without proper health, there is nothing we can contribute to this world. So, I went to it first because of in around 2015, I had gone to France for an internship. And just before I went there, it was like my dream. I'm going to France. Someone is going to pay for my tickets and stay. I'm going to work at a big company. But just before I was going there, I learned that my father had a stroke. So while I was expecting that, yeah, going to France was going to be so exciting, I went there, and because that event happened before, I didn't really feel like what's the meaning of all this. Like, I was expecting so much out of this, but now because of some personal tragedy, this has no meaning for me. So I started trying to understand, okay, what is really meaningful in life. And while I was doing that, I was into fitness and exercise. I was lifting weights, doing body weight exercises. But one day I had a shoulder frozen. A frozen shoulder is what they call it. And at that time, it was so painful. I was not able to sleep for 2 days. So really, those two experiences helped me. My father's stroke and my personal frozen shoulder that was so painful pushed me into exploring how can we have an optimal mental state and also an optimal physical state so that we can experience the most that life has to offer to us.
Thank you for sharing that story. I am so sorry to hear about your father. I often feel like the things that happen to us are happening for us
Mhm.
to open up our eyes, maybe take the blinders off, and look a little bit deeper for what's important in my life. How did you get started in urine therapy?
Yeah, so that was a cut on my leg, and everyone was telling me, why go do this antiseptics? You have to go get a tetanus injection. And my uncle said, don't worry about it, just urinate on it, and you will be fine. And that is something that I didn't take seriously. I didn't do it at that time, but eventually I started learning more and more about urine and how it is not like a new concept. It's not really a new age concept. It has been practiced by many people throughout the ages in many different lands. So I found out that it was certain kind of practice that people had come to understand the benefits of urine independently of each other. Like these people in different lands were not connected, but independently, that's like a very scientific approach. Like if something an hypothesis is true, every scientist approaching it in their own way will come to the same conclusion without even interacting with other people. So I saw people had taken a very scientific approach to urine and come to very similar conclusions about it, and I started studying it and eventually practicing it.
Dr. Podar, there is so much to unpack here. I've heard of using urine on a jellyfish bite, or if you get stung by a jellyfish, you can pee on it, but no other injuries. Why do you think more people aren't talking about urine therapy?
One reason I think more people are not talking about this is because it cannot be monetized. It is a very simple practice, and it is so simple that it is widely misunderstood. So people don't even want to talk about it.
Okay, I'm going to take you back, I think 3 years ago when I first heard about urine therapy on a podcast. And I thought it was the most bizarro thing I had ever heard. I thought, who would use urine? It's a waste product, right? Why would they even talk about it? But this woman said that she'd been practicing it for 20 some odd years. And she said that if you get a bee sting or a wasp bite, the first thing you should do is use your own urine to put it out. What is in urine that has these magical healing benefits?
See, urine is a very purified form of our blood, and most people think that urine is a waste product of our body. But also, if you look at the function of the function of the kidneys is not to filter waste, but to regulate the pH levels of the blood, the mineral content of the blood. And the best way to regulate is to, if there is excess minerals, excess anything inside the blood that is not helping the body keep the optimal pH levels, the best way is to remove those minerals from the blood, and that is what the kidneys does, and it just removes it from the body so the body's natural pH level is maintained. So there is nothing in the urine that is a wasteful product. It is only being taken out of the body to maintain the body's pH level. So that means that urine has some minerals that the body really needs. And those are, I am not a chemist, so I don't remember the names of what urea is one big thing. But I have also noticed in urine therapy that the uh, content of the urine depends mostly on what is your diet. If you are eating good things, your urine will have good things. If you're not eating so good things, you'll not get good things in your urine.
What? So I've talked about bee stings, jellyfish bites. What would someone use urine for?
For me, I had a very interesting situation where I had developed a severe case of allergies, and I would have hives break over all my body, and the only way I could suppress it is by taking immunosuppressants. I went to allergy specialist They tested me for allergies. They do a skin prick test where they prick the skin with different kind of allergens, and I tested positive for all, like all 30 or 40 varieties. I tested positive for everything. The doctor said, I have never seen a case like this. So the doctor gave me immunosuppressants, but that is also not good because it suppresses your immunity. And if you get a cut or a disease, you can get really sick with if you're on immunosuppressants. So I didn't want to continue like that forever. I wanted to understand how can I improve my immunity. I don't want to suppress it. I want to improve my immunity. So that is one reason I started practicing urine therapy. And ever since I have started practicing, that was about 5 years ago, I have not had any allergies come back.
Wow. Okay. This is something I really want to get into. So, how are you practicing urine therapy?
It's a very simple process practicing urine therapy. It takes literally less than 2 minutes for me. I in the morning sometimes I don't do it daily, but I at least do it 3 to 4 times a week, which is the first urination of the morning. I take the middle portion of it and I drink it. That's it. It's as simple as that. There's nothing more to it.
You make it sound so simple. So, I want to dive into how does that look? Do you catch it first thing? Do you let a bit of it just fall into the toilet at first? And then I'm curious, when you drink it, do you drink it straight away? Do you put an ice cube in it, mix it with some juice? I'm really curious to learn because I feel like when people hear about urine therapy, they're like, there's no way I'm drinking my own urine.
Yeah, there are many ways to do it. I have tried a lot of ways, but I also want to give a little background of how I started taking it seriously. Is that when I was having these allergies and I was taking the immunosuppressants, I saw a show on National Geographic, and it was about the story of a yogi, Western yogi in California, who would take students into the mountains and he taught people urine therapy. He told that it's a way for spiritual enlightenment. At that point, I was so reeling with allergies. Spiritual enlightenment was not on my mind. I just wanted to get rid of allergies. And I have a knack for reading books. I was in the university at that time. My way to relax was to walk across the aisles of the library and pick up any book that had an interesting title. So one day I was walking across an aisle and I saw a book that was titled The Bathroom. And I thought, okay, it was a book that was about this thick, a black bound cover with golden letters written about bathroom. I've never seen a book titled The Bathroom. So I was curious. I have to read this book. I forget the author of the book. You can easily find that online. But the author was an architect. And the author was describing how in architecture, students are taught to design every aspect of the building, but no one is taught how to design a bathroom. So, bathrooms are not designed by architects, bathrooms are designed by plumbers. And the plumbers, they have no idea of how the human body works. They design the bathroom according to their plumbing benefits, what can make their job easier. And then the book also did a long discourse about why architects are not taught how to design bathrooms, because people have the perception of having our body waste as something to be detesting, like something to stay away from. And then it goes into why that is the case and why it's not true. Our body waste, what is thought as a waste, is actually not an waste. And it goes into a long discourse about urine therapy and everything. And I read that, so I saw urine therapy come across again and again in my life, like through different media. It was coming to me. I said, I have to practice it now. And I started practicing it.
How do you use urine therapy besides just drinking it?
Yes. Yeah. So that's where I was going. So when I started, I was also like, yuck, I don't want to do this, but I have these allergies. I have to improve my immunity. And I have tried immunosuppressants and I don't want to be on them forever. So I have to try another approach. If it was urine therapy, that is where I will go. So first time I tried it just like that. I had read in books, I had read multiple books on urine therapy after that. And what I learned from those books is that the first stream of urination in the morning and the last stream of the urination in the morning usually has some sediments. So if you are doing urine therapy by drinking it, the best stream is the midstream, where it's much more clearer than the like beginning stream and the ending stream. When I tasted it first, I was probably also not on a good diet at that time. It tasted horrible to me. I was not used to the taste. But I tried something, and what I tried was I started squeezing a wedge of lemon into the urine, and that really made the taste very neutral. I said, okay, I can drink it. There is usually a smell, was a smell associated with my urine at that time because probably I was not drinking enough water. And when I started drinking more water, that smell also became more neutral. I started controlling my diet. I started having fruits like orange and watermelon, and I started seeing the taste of my urine also change. It became sweeter. So I started paying more attention to my diet as a result of that also. And now, because of the diet I have, my urine is much more palatable, I would say. I can drink it right in original form without adding anything.
When I first started urine therapy, it was from a recommendation of my functional medicine doctor. And I thought, no way. But like you, I started doing a lot of research. And the book that I read was called Golden Fountain, The Complete
Mhm.
Guide to Urine Therapy. And I remember being blown away at all the things that urine can do. And so I slowly started mixing it with a bit of water so it would be diluted. Now I have no problem drinking it as my first morning urine. But I was curious to learn, what other uses do you have besides drinking it? How else can we use urine?
I think a great way is to use it as a moisturizer. If someone's skin is too dry, I have something that I'm going to try soon because I walk a lot. I have a dog. I walk a lot, and I got calluses on my legs, on my feet now. So it's a great moisturizer. If you have calluses, you have to get rid of the dead skin. Urine is a great moisturizer. I am going to try to moisturize the calluses and break off the dead skin. Another use I have tried is on my hair due to dandruff. I used to have a lot of dandruff, and dandruff usually happens because the scalp is too dry. So once I started massaging some urine on my scalp just before a shower, my scalp started becoming more moisturized and my dandruff went away. And apart from that, minor cuts and bruises, and just to maintain a healthy immunity in general, you can drink it. But just minor cuts and bruises, you can apply urine to it. Also, I think that urine is used. I have read in some books, probably you know too. It has been shown that if you are trying to detox your body, a fast on urine is a great way to do that. So those are some of the ways that I know and have used.
When I think of urine therapy, I feel like I still kind of get that ick feeling because when people think of urine, I think they think, or at least I do, the smell of bums or maybe being in a subway and you're like, oh, that smells so gross. So, Dr. Podar, what's the difference between fresh urine and that old urine smell?
Urine has urea. So urea over time will have a strong smell. Here is the thing about fresh urine. It's not just fresh urine, it's also what kind of diet the person has. That if someone is not drinking enough water and there's a lot of smell on their urine, and people are very familiar with it, if you're not drinking enough water, your urine is going to be yellow or some other color. If you're drinking enough water, it's going to be more clear. So I think it's not just fresh urine that can reduce the smell, but drinking water in the appropriate amount for your body will help a lot.
You had mentioned that you use it topically to get rid of dandruff. You use it before the shower. But I have some top beauty secrets to share that I've never shared on this podcast before. But when I'm done with my shower, I have an empty glass bottle, spray bottle, and I'll actually dump some of my first morning urine in it and I'll spray it on my hair. And Dr. Podar, I have to tell you, the compliments I get on my hair
Mm.
are nonstop. My hair feels thicker, it's shinier. And I think one of the key things we haven't mentioned yet are stem cells in urine.
Yeah, I have heard that research. I have not explored it. What do you know about that stem cell research?
Stem cells are one of the key factors to youthfulness
Mhm.
and making sure our bodies stay vibrant and energetic. And like you mentioned earlier, if we don't have our health, we don't have anything. Health is wealth. And if you can get stem cells for free, why wouldn't you use it?
Yeah, yeah, and that's a great point. also see it from a engineering perspective. In engineering, what happens is you have something called a feedback loop. And what a feedback loop is a machine or a device performs some action, and the action is measured and fed back to the machine learning system, so the machine can self correct itself. So I think that is what happens with urine therapy, especially taking it orally or topically, is that it gives the body feedback about what's going on inside the body so that a body can make the adjustments to self heal and self improve the immunity and all the other external features like you mentioned about your hair. You get compliments on that. So the body gets feedback about what it needs to do to make itself better through urine.
Why do you think it's important to use first morning urine rather than urine later in the day? Because I love when my urine tends to be more clear. And I think to myself, now this is something I could drink. There's going to be no taste in my clear urine.
Yeah, one reason people suggest morning urine is the morning urine is rich with many hormones and minerals, because when we sleep, our body is relaxed. There is a lot more balanced hormones that are in our bloodstream than we are when we are working. So the night sleep time is when the body is relaxed and the hormones captured there are in the morning urine stream, and you want to take that back into your body so that the day is as relaxing as the time when you sleep.
Can you walk me through, or have you heard about urine enemas?
I have not heard about it.
There's a guy, Troy Casey. He has a book called Ripped at 50. And he used to be this party goer, living life on the edge, and then completely turned his health around. And that was a book also that totally took me by surprise. I couldn't believe what I was reading, but he says that a urine enema was able to cleanse his colon better than anything he had ever tried. So, if someone is new to urine therapy, Dr. Podar, where do you think they should start?
Yeah, if anyone wants to start urine therapy, I think first they need a reason. What is your reason? Because for me, it was I wanted to improve my immunity and not have those severe allergies anymore. That was a strong reason for me. I have also noticed that people want to live a more natural life. Like they don't want to depend on many external medicines to keep themselves healthy. So that is a good reason, but the reason could be good, different, and any different for everyone. So first thing is that someone needs a reason, and it's something that you can practice on your own. If you are into reading books, you can read from books and learn. So that study is important. But if you are not willing to do the studying, there are people who are called urine therapy practitioners that can help guide you. They are just like any pharmacist who will help you understand what condition you're trying to treat through urine therapy, or and they can help you with certain regimens and everything. So for me, it is like I don't want to make it something like it's something that I am just using to treat a condition. I want to make it a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle like exercise. It's not like you do exercise to treat a condition. You exercise to keep yourself healthy for the rest of your life. So that's how I see it. It's a reason for someone that they generally want to improve their health. Urine therapy is a great way to start, and if you are taking it orally, yeah, there is no way around it that if someone is not used to it in the beginning, it's going to be difficult with the taste and the smell. The ways around it we discussed. The ways around it is drink plenty of water, change your diet into more fruits and vegetables, and then if it's the taste is a little too obnoxious, people can always try squeezing a lemon, mixing it with more water and diluting. So those are things we discussed and I have tried personally, but there could be other ways that we have not discussed in this podcast. So for someone starting out, I would just repeat myself, have a good reason to start so that you can make it a lifestyle, because the benefits of urine therapy really are seen in the long term. It's not a once a weekly thing, like you do it for 1 week and you are all set. It's shown in the long term, because there's a story about an Indian prime minister. His name was Morarji Desai, and he was the prime minister of India and a big proponent of urine therapy. He lived over 100 years. So there have been many celebrities too and politicians who have practiced it. So it is like, and they have also shown that it has to be a lifestyle for the effects to show. So unless there's a strong reason, people will not make it into a lifestyle.
I like that advice. I really like that. I think this is a good segue to go into that bathroom book that you mentioned that architects don't know how to build bathrooms. What is it that architects are missing when it comes to the bathroom?
When it comes to the bathroom, architects are missing how the human body functions because architects have no hand in designing bathrooms. Bathrooms were such a taboo topic that I read in that bathroom book. On a space shuttle, the bathroom first was so poorly designed, uh, it was smelling, and nobody even wanted to fix it because it was such a taboo thing for them to do. It took repeated complaints to fix that problem. So not just in buildings, but even in space shuttles, bathrooms were very poorly designed because it's such a taboo topic. What really needs to happen in bathrooms is the bathroom has to be designed according to how the human body functions, which is for, it's not just urine, it's for also excretion, it's for pooping. That the human body performs best when the knees are closer to our chest during urinating or excreting. And the modern bathrooms, the Western style bathrooms, they don't allow for that. I showed that in my TED talk that when our knees are closer, our passages are more straight. Whereas when our knees are not close to our chest, the passages are crooked. So we need to apply extra pressure on the colon. And if you are doing that for a lifetime, that is what can cause real damage to the internal organs. So there are ways to work around that. You can sit on top of the toilet or use what they call a squatting stool near your toilet. There are ways to work around it, but people need to understand that how modern bathrooms are designed, and I see that they are getting higher and higher when they need to get lower is not beneficial for the human body.
It's funny you say that because I remember when my mom had moved into a new home, she was so excited for this extra high toilet because you didn't have to go down as far. And I just remember thinking, who cares? Who cares about an extra high toilet? And I didn't think much of it till your story just now. But also, what I wanted to share was the first time I ever learned about squatting to defecate was when I was in Australia and I was doing a hot balloon tour and I had to use the restroom beforehand. And there were these pictures on the bathroom stall that showed a red X and a green check of how to properly sit on the toilet. And I came out and I remember I asked my mom, I said, who would squat on a toilet? Why do they have those signs? So you had just mentioned it, but why do you think so much of the world is sitting the way that you would normally sit on a chair, the way that you sit on a toilet instead of squatting?
It is easier and more comfortable, and it is a great way to lose flexibility in your body. If people are not squatting, they are losing a very important piece of health, which is flexibility. Squatting allows us to engage all our joints and bend them in a way that keeps the body flexible for the rest of the day. If someone can squat the first thing in the morning, they will feel how flexible and light their body feels for the rest of the day. And what do you do first thing in the morning? We defecate. So that when it's taken out from a human lifestyle, it only uh, takes away our flexibility and makes our body more inflexible. Was also, I'm also a meditation practitioner, so sitting for long periods means you have to have flexible joints. If you don't have flexible joints, you cannot sit for a long time. With you can, but it will be extremely painful. So once also started reading that bathroom book, I started squatting and I saw my flexibility improve. And now I can sit for hours in a meditation posture without any pain.
I also imagine if you're not sitting on a toilet the way it's been designed, but instead squatting, you're not straining as much and therefore potentially not having hemorrhoids.
That's a great point. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. I didn't have hemorrhoids, but I strains that strain will cause hemorrhoids.
Yes, no, not just you, but I think people in general sitting there for a while. And you talked about incorporating more fruits and vegetables into your diet to make that better. But I'm just thinking in that squatting position, it's probably easier on your body, not just the flexibility, but also for what you said to make the passage smoother. So, since we're talking about sitting, I would love for you to tell me, how long can we sit before it becomes a problem?
So sitting actually is not a problem. Sitting is actually what the human bodies was designed for. Humans are the only creatures on earth who can sit for a long time because our bodies are designed where we have to keep our spine straight. The problem is with how we sit. We sit too much in a way, and it has mostly to do with how chairs are designed is we don't engage our core muscles when we are lying back on a chair, and when we are sitting there not engaging our core muscles, that means the position of the spine is not straight. It's actually a S shape. When the spine is straight, actually must look like an S in a normal healthy spine. So if we took an x-ray of a person who's sitting on a chair, it would not look like an S. But sitting, we can sit for really long times, practice meditation. They sit for hours and hours, but their spine looks like an S because they don't have any back support. And the real trick to sitting with a spine straight is that when we are sitting, hips have to be higher than our knees. The position of if you look at, these are the hips, the knees have to be in this kind of position for a spine to remain straight. Where the chairs don't encourage that. Sometimes our knees are even higher than our hips, so that causes a slouchy spine. So if someone can do uh, like sitting in a way where the knees are always lower than our hips, then the spine will always stay straight. And that's a great way to sit.
Is such an important tip. And I'm so glad you brought it up because I have a desk job. I'm sitting at my desk all day long. And I remember I was so excited to have this free work posture assessment. And I remember the person that I was speaking to said, and showed me a picture. You want to have your hips right in line with your knees and your knees right over your heel. So it's this perfect 90-degree angle. And that's what I have been striving for up until I had a gentleman on my show who, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the Salli chair,
I
but it's
have.
like, yeah, so it's a saddle. It makes room for your reproductive organs to sit in a really nice supported way rather than being smashed and all pushed up. So this is amazing to say that your hips should be above your knees. Why is that important?
Why is that important? So, if you look at the skeleton system, when the hips, the knees, the femur, the thigh bones are joined to the base of the spine in such a way that it does not stay straight. The spine does not stay in the S shape when it's at the same level to the hips or higher than the hips. So if we want to sit for a long time, we want to keep the spine straight so that the pressure on each vertebral disc is minimal. It's like optimized. The load of the body, there are a lot of organs on our upper body, like the rib cage, heart, lungs. These are heavy organs. So the weight is being optimally distributed to the spine and being passed down through our, we call it sitting bones. So if the weight is not being optimally distributed and it happens for a long time, in engineering we call it fatigue failure. The disc will start, one disc will have more pressure, it will start slipping out of its place, and the result is extremely painful. You don't want a vertebral disc slipping out of its place.
Do you think that's where a lot of back pain stems from, is sitting not properly and or also having our hips right in line with our knees?
That can be a contributing factor. And I think another contributing factor is we don't take time to keep our spine flexible. A spine is, it's like a mat. It can be rolled up. Literally, it can be rolled up. And I have learned through practicing yoga postures that the you have to keep a flexible spine where you can sit for a long time. And the way to keep a flexible spine is to, it's simple. It's, you have to stretch the spine in the four directions every day, like forward bend, backward bend, stretch on the left side, stretch on the right side. Just do it every day. That is a way to ensure that a spine is straight and flexible.
It's one of the worst things we can do for our spine.
The worst thing we can do for our spine is not to stretch it. Stretching is the best thing. It's such a wonderful feeling when you get up in the morning, you stretch your spine, and I do it. And when I do some stretching, I hear my spine crack. It is a sound that is so soothing, but it's also a feeling that is so soothing. whole body is connected to our brain through the spine. And if the spine is healthy and flexible, all our nerve signals through the rest of the body are being diverted properly. All electric signals are flowing properly. The worst thing to do to the spine is, of course, not stretching it, not maintaining the right gaps between the vertebral disc. And stretching helps ensure that the right gap between the vertebral disc are maintained. If we are not stretching it, slowly with time the gap between the disc will get distorted, and it will lead to problems.
Sometimes when I'm tired of sitting on my Salli chair, I'll alternate between standing or I'll move to a regular chair and I'll sit crisscross applesauce. What are your thoughts on sitting in that cross legged style?
Cross-legged style, I think, is the best form of sitting. That is because our hearts have to work much less to pump the blood from greater heights. When we are sitting on a chair, you see the difference of height between your heart and your toes. It's a long distance that the blood has to be pumped through through so much gravity, and then being brought back against the force of so much gravity. So the heart has to work a lot harder when you're sitting on a chair for a long day. But if you're sitting on a chair cross-legged, the distance between the heart and the toes are reduced. So the heart has to work a lot less against gravity to pump the blood. So that is absolutely the best posture. Sitting cross-legged, the heart is closer to the toes, heart is much more relaxed, lot less strain on the heart.
I'd love for you to share some stories, whether personal or people that you've worked with who are better off health wise for listening to one or both of your TED Talks.
Urine therapy is something that I have received a lot of messages from people who have told me that their family members, I'll give an example, that someone had contacted me that their parent, their father, in late 70s had some kind of cancer, and the doctors were unwilling to do radiation therapy on them because of their age. So after listening to my TED talk, they had gone to a urine therapist and practiced with the urine therapist, and they were able to recover from cancer because of just doing urine therapy and listening to what the urine therapist told them. I didn't personally help them, but I received messages from them that after listening to that my TED talk, that they were inspired to try that healing methodology rather than depending on what traditionally has been seen as it doesn't work. It works, but you need to understand how it can work. And specifically with the sitting, I have many people who bought squatty potties to help them pass stool more effectively.
I appreciate those stories. And also, I think the squatty potty is a great example that we can still have a nice, functional looking bathroom and just slide that stool underneath. But I have to know that person who reached out to you with their, I think you said grandparent or parent with cancer. Do you know if they became cancer free?
I do have to follow up, but I don't know if they became cancer free. But I learned that their health improved. They were not as in pain that they were before. So I will have to follow up. That's a good reminder.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm just so curious to learn about these things. And I also just wanted to ask you, I know you mentioned it before that we can't make money on these things, but why do you think more people should incorporate urine therapy?
I feel like we are getting more conscious about health and lifestyle, and incorporating urine therapy does not necessarily mean that people have to stop doing what they are doing. It is, I think, it's a very logical process to introduce a feedback loop for our health, because without urine therapy the body does not know how it's performing. With urine therapy the body knows how it's performing, and our body can self heal, but we need to tell the body first what's wrong. So we cannot write a letter to our body and tell it, okay, this is wrong. So the letter to the body is urine therapy, and that is why I think people should incorporate. And there is no known side effects to urine therapy unless your diet is awful. So there is no real risk to it.
Do you think using pH test to measure our urine would be a good indicator or a good place to start to find out how good or poor our urine is?
Yeah, I think our urine must be alkaline, and if pH test reveals our urine is more acidic, then we need to work on something about our diet and lifestyle.
Dr. Podar, As we wrap up this podcast, I ask all my guests the same closing question, which is, what haven't I asked you that you'd like my listeners to know?
What haven't you asked me that I would like the listeners to know? I would say that we have covered almost all the topics. So I would say that what I didn't say is the kind of books I read. You mentioned the book Golden Fountain, and you mentioned another book from Troy Casey. So apart from that, I have other books. One of them is called Your Own Perfect Medicine, and then there's a book called The Water of Life. I think in the Indian text there are some books called Shivambu, and it's a conversation between a Indian deity called Shiva and his wife Parvati, and they are talking about how to live a more healthy human life, what humans can do. And urine therapy is something that they talk about in length. So there are some ancient texts, there are some modern books, and there are also some research papers that people can read. So I would say that people should not take us on our word. They have to do their own independent research, and research always involves practice. It's not just enough to read something and know about it. You have to apply it and see the benefits for yourself. Or if there are no benefits, okay, that's also right. That's a scientific approach. But you have to take the scientific approach, do your own research, understand the theory, and also practice it to understand why it's important that we incorporate urine therapy.
I love that. Such great parting words. I love when people recommend books. So I will make sure that we put some links in the show notes. Can you also tell listeners what your 2 TED Talks are called and where to find you?
Yeah, the 2 TED Talks are called, one is called Sitting the Silent Addiction. The second one is called Can Your Urine Help You? And people can find me on LinkedIn. People can usually, that's where I am most active. And yeah, I think LinkedIn is the best way.
Well, we will put everything in the show notes. Dr. Poddar, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure, Ashley. I was delighted to have this conversation from you, and I think we spoke on a very important topic, and I learned a lot from you too.
That's so sweet. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
This podcast is a labor of love, and I'm dedicated to providing free content for years to come. If an episode has brought you joy, clarity, or valuable insights, your support means so much to me. A quick shout out on Instagram or sharing this podcast with a friend can make a big difference. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, a great way to help support the show, or even on YouTube, is by leaving a review. You can also help support my work by using any of the affiliate links that I leave in my detailed show notes, or visit my website, ashleydaily.com. I'm most active on Instagram if you're looking for me, so you can find me at Ashley_Daily. Thank you for helping me keep this podcast alive. This podcast is presented for educational and exploratory purposes only. Published content is not intended to be used for diagnosing or treating any illnesses, disease, or disorders. Those responsible for this show disclaim any responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of this information presented by myself or my guests. Please consult with your healthcare provider before using any products or services referenced in this podcast. This podcast may contain paid endorsements for products or services. Any third-party materials or content of any third-party site referenced on this show do not necessarily reflect the opinions or standards of the policy of my guests. This podcast and my website, ashleydaily.com, represent the opinions of myself. The content discussed on the show should not and does not replace medical advice. The content here is for informational purposes only. Episodes on Welcome to Wellness may at times cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to depression, suicide, COVID-19, vaccines, events related to the pandemic, 5G, big pharma, nootropics, circumcision, psychedelics, hormones, the Women's Health Initiative, the use of plant medicine, abortion, geoengineering, terrorism, gender, AI, and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You are advised to refrain from listening to this podcast if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. However, if these topics interest you, you just may have found your tribe. The information or opinions expressed on the Welcome to Wellness show are solely the views of the individuals involved and by no means represent absolute facts, opinions, or expressed by the host, and guests can change at any time. The views of my guests are solely their views, and the Welcome to Wellness show does not accept responsibility for them, and any action you take on the information contained within this show is strictly at your own risk. The Welcome to Wellness host, Ashley Deely, will not be liable for any losses or damages in connections with the use of this podcast. You should take all necessary steps to ascertain the information you receive from this podcast is correct and has been verified. None of the guests or the contributors on the Welcome to Wellness podcast will be responsible for your use of the information contained therewithin. Under no circumstances will the Welcome to Wellness show or my affiliate partners, suppliers, licenses, or guests appearing on the show be liable for any direct or indirect consequential damages arising from your inability to access this podcast. All intellectual property rights belong to me, Ashley Deely, and are included but not limited to the copyright and any other rights in the design. You are permitted to the Welcome to Wellness podcast for personal use, but not for commercial use without license. You may not make recordings of or otherwise copy this podcast. If you breach these terms, you lose the right to access the Welcome to Wellness podcast, and you must destroy or return any copies of the recordings you've made. Guests on the Welcome to Wellness podcast may at times provide information on or read extracts from third-party copyrighted work. The Welcome to Wellness podcast does not provide any medical or professional advice within these episodes. If you take any action or inaction as a result from the content you consume from within the Welcome to Wellness podcast, this is based solely on your decision, and the Welcome to Wellness podcast and Ashley Deely and my guests cannot be held responsible or liable for any of the consequences on such action or inaction. Thank you.